Hi, everybody. Welcome to MyHealthStyle and our Facebook Live broadcast. I am super excited to be interviewing an actual old friend of mine, a tennis partner, and somebody who really inspires me. She took a journey from being an RN a couple of years ago, and I've secretly been following her on her journey. And actually, MyHealthStyle is kind of involved a little bit in the area that she's become a specialist and an educator in. So I would like to welcome my good friend Lisa Wickham to My Health Style Live. We're doing this special broadcast today on Friday and hoping that you can spend a few minutes with us, ask Lisa some questions, and she's also simultaneously going to give us a little bit of information on what mindfulness is and how we can incorporate it into our lives every day, and specifically if we have some chronic conditions or some coping skills that we need in our lives. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to come and talk about some mindfulness with you and all of your followers. So thank you.
Tell us a little bit quickly about your background, about being a registered nurse, and then your travels to Duke.
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, I've been a registered nurse for all of my adult life. Most of my nursing background has been in hospital pediatrics. So, if you can imagine dealing with really seriously ill children and
Right.
very, very stressed parents and families. And then after leaving the hospital, I worked at an allergy and asthma clinic. So again, a lot of pediatrics, a lot of adults there. So I truly call myself a respiratory nurse for multiple reasons. And I love working with the breath. But when I left nursing, I hit a crossroads in my life and I really was trying to decide what do I want to do as I leave traditional nursing. And what I realized was something I've been practicing all my life is mindfulness, really teaching other people how to deal with stress and difficult emotions and situations. And so that took me to Duke Integrative Medicine, where I've done extensive studies um, personally, a personal journey in learning about mindfulness and bringing it forth now in a variety of different ways. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Hi, Tracy. Thanks for joining us. And Tracy is actually one of our coaches. She's one of our coach managers,
Oh,
and she's out
wonderful.
on the West Coast. So I appreciate you getting up early to join us
Yeah.
um, for this live broadcast. So I personally, in my own experience, have come across in news media the importance of mindfulness. Fortune magazine has written about how it can really help CEOs and other executives. Um, it's helping people. There's an app for that, of course, but it's actually helping people, all the way down at the community and the individual level, all the way up to large corporations. It's becoming more known, is
Yeah.
what I'm seeing. It's no longer maybe the incense burning, twisted yoga pose situation or that people have in their mind, right? It's actually
Absolutely.
very valid, important, infused part of our lives. Can
Right.
you kind of give us an everyday definition? Um, Now that you're teaching and you're an educator, give us an everyday education or description of what mindfulness means.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I go there, I just really want to highlight what you're saying. I think that's so important to mention. Mindfulness, many people think of it as kind of foofy. It is so well researched. There are
Yes.
literally hundreds of thousands of studies done on mindfulness, everywhere from bringing it into the corporate world to bringing it into the medical world to bring it into our private lives,
Right.
everything, all the way around. So what is it? I'm going to give you a formal definition by John Kabat-Zinn, and then I'm going to break that down a little bit
Good.
because it's kind of a mouthful. So the formal definition by John Kabat-Zinn is paying attention on purpose in the present moment in a particular way and non-judgmentally. So there's a lot of words in that. I'm going to pull out
Right.
3 words that really, really are important when we think about mindfulness. Attention, paying attention, right?
Mhm.
Honing our attention, learning how to train our attention. We live in a multitasking world. So
Right.
that's something we're losing if we're not being mindful.
Right.
Intention, doing this on purpose, right? Not just leaving it by chance, but we're literally doing this on purpose. We're intentional about it. And then the third word there is attitude. And this is kind of the secret ingredient. It's a non-judgmental attitude. Because if
That
you,
is my personal problem, is the
yeah,
judgment. And it's interesting because I pride myself on being a non outwardly judgmental person.
yeah,
However, internally, I'm constantly reevaluating, and I can't just be. And that's
yeah.
my hard part.
Well, welcome to the human race. You're not unlike anybody else. And to know, I think it's really important for us to know that as human beings, our brain is actually hardwired to be judgmental. That's a survival skill for us. If we
Right.
remember things that are bad for us, that can help keep us alive. So, again, the intentionality comes out here to know that we are kind of hardwired to judge. We don't have
Hmm.
to judge the fact that we're judgmental, but if we notice it,
What? We don't judge the fact that we judge? That we judge?
no, I mean, isn't that true? We can get
Yeah.
into, oh my gosh, I'm so judgmental. And then we can be so critical about ourselves there. But the
Yes.
shift could be, ah, there's judgment there. What if I let
Hmm.
go of that?
Ah, I see.
And those 3 words, attention, intention, and attitude, that non judgmental attitude. Because if you think about it, we can actually pay attention with intention in a very critical way, just the way you're speaking about. I can be
Hmm.
really hard on myself. We all typically are. That's not
Hmm.
the spirit of mindfulness. Mindfulness is that idea of recognizing there's judgment or criticism there. And then, just letting that be and meeting ourselves with a sense of kind regard, meeting ourselves with a sense of friendliness. So, really, another way
Hmm.
to describe mindfulness that I think is so important because so many times people will think it's all about and making everything blissful and wonderful. Mindfulness really, a really solid definition of it is being with whatever's arising in the moment without
Hmm.
judgment and with a sense of kind regard. And sometimes what arises in any given moment can be challenging or difficult. It could be a difficult emotion. It could be a difficult situation. Meeting those things with a sense of kind regard sounds so easy and it is so simple. And then when we start to practice it, we find out that it
It's
is a little bit challenging.
it is. It is. So, how can you give us some examples of how to incorporate this process into our daily life, our everyday chaos?
Yeah, absolutely. So one way is just we can just take moments to pause. I like calling it the sacred pause, just
Is
hitting
that
that pause
different than
button.
meditation? We have a question here. It sounds like meditation. Is a pause different than meditation?
So that's a really great question, Wendy. Thank you for sending that in. Mine, I talk about mindfulness practices. Other people label them as meditations. It is a form of meditation. And it's interesting that sometimes we find a little bit of judgment around the word meditation. Sometimes for some
Mhm.
people, that word can be a little bit difficult. Ooh, what is meditation? Really,
Right.
meditation, all it is dropping within and checking in with ourselves. It's nothing really more than that. We don't have to put judgment around that. So, yes, it is a way of, there are different ways to meditate, there are different kinds of meditation. Mindfulness is a specific kind of meditation, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. It makes sense to me only because I'm just relating this to myself.
Hmm.
Meditation, and please, all of you do not get angry with me for being uneducated about this. This is just my perception. Um, I don't have time for meditation. Like, to me, that's 30 minutes. But mindfulness, I can actually check in with myself. I'm not sure I can always not hold myself in judgment, but I'm pretty good at always just checking in and taking in the moment
Yeah.
and then moving on to the next moment. And that doesn't require any time except a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, I think your points are really valid. So those are wonderful mindful check-ins, right? Dropping into the moment, checking in with ourselves. Um, that's kind of called informal practice, and that's very, very valuable. Do it throughout your day. Just check in
Right,
with yourself, right? Then there's the formal practices, and sometimes we can really kind of wig ourselves out about, I don't have 30 minutes to sit still. Well, what if you had 2 minutes? There's
right,
no supposed to's here. There's none of this is about perfection. It's about
right.
a journey. It's about a journey of self-discovery, really. And I really want to highlight another thing that you said, Alex, about I don't know that I can turn off the judgment about myself. Don't try. This isn't about perfection. It's about noticing. Mindfulness is about
Yeah,
awareness. Ah, there's judgment. I can just let that be. I don't have to attach to it, and I don't have to push it away. I can just
right.
notice that it's there. It's very
Gotcha.
freeing, actually. Does
So
that
I
make
don't have to
sense?
fix it. I don't have to correct it.
You
Like,
don't have
I
to
don't
fix
have to be a
anything.
parent to myself and correct it.
No. Actually, what I would do through mindfulness is to meet it with compassion. Ah, there's judgment that causes suffering for me. Can I add
Right,
a little compassion? Ooh, that was tough. What if I just let that be and say something kind to myself instead? Do you see how
right.
this kind
Yes.
this is mindfulness in motion, right? In action. So
And these are examples of how we can incorporate it in. Do you have any other examples of how we can incorporate it into
yeah,
our
oh
everyday?
my gosh, there's so many examples. So as I started to say before, just taking different moments during the day.
Hmm.
Oftentimes I'll hear people say that they'll get an app on their phone or they'll set their phone alarm randomly throughout the day that it's like their bell of mindfulness. And they'll just hit that pause button, close their eyes if they can in that moment. But really, more importantly, is just take a deep breath. Check in with yourself. Okay, how am I doing in this moment? Where are my thoughts right
Right,
now? What's the
right.
emotional state? What's going on in my body? What if I just offer myself a moment of ease, just right here in this moment?
Sometimes, sometimes I feel like I don't like the responsibility of that,
Oh, that's
of
interesting.
the checking in, and because I don't know, maybe it's because then I have to be okay with it when it's just easier to ignore it. Does that make sense?
What is it? You have to be okay with it. What is it?
Whatever emotion is going on within me. Let's say it's just anxiety or excitement about this live broadcast, right? Like
Yeah.
just, and accepting that and owning it in the moment is too hard. So I'd rather just ignore it and continue on.
Yeah.
That's my way of.
So, and sometimes you may be pointing to this and you may not be, but I'm going to speak to it because it's something that comes up for a lot of people.
Okay.
We spend a lot of our time diverting ourselves from the things we don't want to pay attention to, right? And that's a way of really closing ourselves off to what's going on in the moment. So, an example of something that you could do, I'm just going to use your example, Alex, because I think that's
Okay.
such a good one, is I don't want to drop into the moment. I don't really want to. Well, what if we change the wording to, what if I just check in and see what's there? And maybe it's not something I really want to spend a lot of time on, and that's okay, but could I just put the welcome mat out that it is there right now? It's
Right.
there right now. Can I acknowledge it? So when we talk about acceptance in mindfulness, acceptance is actually one of the key attitudes of mindfulness. Oftentimes that's a trip up word for people. They'll think
Hmm.
acceptance means this is the way it is and I just have to accept that, and it's like being a doormat, right?
Right.
That's not the nature of mindfulness. Acceptance in mindfulness is just recognizing that this is what's here in the moment. That doesn't mean it's going to stay here, or it doesn't mean that I don't have the opportunity to change something in my life. It's
Right.
just recognizing, that is here in the moment, and it's really painful.
So that leads me to my next question was how can we use mindfulness to help us stay with our goals
Yeah,
or to help us, if we're coping with something, a particular disease, diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, what have you. So this check-in aspect of mindfulness, can that help us stay on our goals and stay on our path?
absolutely. On so many layers, in so many levels, it's unbelievable how it can help us.
Right.
Number one, oftentimes when we have a diagnosis and a chronic illness, it can be uh, really challenging. Those are things that are hard to put the welcome mat out to, right?
Hmm.
These are times for self compassion. Oh my gosh, this is a difficult diagnosis. How am I ever going to manage this? And then it becomes,
Right.
a really daunting thing. So, dropping into the moment, doing a 2-minute practice, just breathing and letting things be there, this actually provides us with clarity.
Hmm.
It gives
It
us a
does.
space. It's called the spaciousness of mindfulness, where we can tap into something deeper, something like our inner strength, and recognize. And I teach a lot in medical settings because
Hmm.
I'm a nurse and I love working with folks with medical issues. Um, we are so much more than any diagnosis that we will ever be
Yes,
diagnosed with, right? We're
that's
so
true.
much
Right.
more than that. We're so much more than our difficulties in life and our suffering. We're a much deeper pool than that. And mindfulness can really help us tap into all the wonderful things that are going on.
Hmm.
There's so much more going on in your body that's going on right than what's going on wrong at any given moment. And any of us are testimony to that because our hearts are beating and we're breathing and things are working. So,
Right.
mindfulness can really help us tap in and learn how to support ourselves in healthy, wholesome ways.
I think that is like the most beautiful statement I have heard in a very, very long time. That there's so much more that's good that's going on within us. And mindfulness can help utilize that, and bring it more to the front.
Absolutely.
That's just I want to take this little clip of what you just said, Lisa, and like share it to the world. That was absolutely amazing.
It's so important to know that. And one other thing I would like to say about chronic illness that I think is really important, and especially with autoimmune chronic illness, and type 2
Uh-huh.
diabetes is an autoimmune. Um, I love the fact that we have such an amazing, knowledgeable healthcare, you know, thing here in the United States.
Right.
Modern medicine is definitely something that is to our advantage.
Right.
And I also, I think we're limited in our language with it. We tend to be disease oriented. What do
Mm.
we need to fix rather than looking at the whole person? And this, by the way, is changing, but it's changing slowly.
Slowly.
But
Yes.
even if you take the word disease and pull it apart, dis ease. Wow. What if we invite ease to ourselves? Now, I'm not trying to say that if we do all these mindfulness practices, poof, we won't
Right.
have this chronic illness, but we can certainly support ourselves. So, what I have found in working with a lot of different people is that they become angry with their bodies. The language around an autoimmune disease is often something like, your body's attacking itself. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. No wonder people become angry with their body and
Right.
depressed and sad.
I
And
have
then we're
MS,
so,
and
yes, that's
I
autoimmune.
describe it as my T cells attack my brain. I mean, it's a very harsh
It,
definition.
it's a very harsh definition. And the reality is there is limited language around that. So
Right.
while there is a truth to that, it
Hmm.
often just spills right into my body's beating itself up. Mindfulness is a way where we can we might not be able to shift the language a whole lot, but internally, the language that we use with ourselves, we can really shift that. And we
Right.
can literally do guided practices to help ourselves do the things we want them to do. We can really heal a lot of things with mindfulness and loving kindness and compassion.
Absolutely. And here's Wendy's question, or statement. Our diseases become our labels in the victim mentality. And so I want to take that statement and I want to transform it to the last question for you, which is, how can we grow mindfulness in our own self-care? Like you've already kind of alluded a little bit about, just our internal voice with ourselves, our internal responsibility to ourselves. Do you have any other advice, suggestions?
Yeah, and I could talk to you probably for about 4 hours about that. So, what I think, for the sake of time, can I
Right.
say a few words about that and then maybe do a
Absolutely.
very brief practice where I can show you? Because mindfulness is so experiential. We really
Sure.
learn it by doing it.
Sure.
So, the few words that I want to say about that, and this is bleeding in a little bit to the loving kindness, which is a huge part of mindfulness. In this country, in this crazy culture that we live in, we have gained the notion that putting ourselves on the top of the priority list, taking good
Hmm.
care of ourselves, taking breaks, doing things to nurture ourselves, we've learned that that is selfish and self absorbed. And science, the research points to this over and over and again, that that is actually absolutely false. It's doing those things is actually self-care. We cannot give away what we don't possess, right?
Right.
We've got to take care of ourselves first before we can take care of others. So what I'd like to do is actually just take a few moments really and
Hmm.
do a little bit of a practice. This is what I'm talking about. So just take a
Okay.
position of comfort, and you can close your eyes or not. Closing your eyes can really help minimize the external distractions as we bring the attention inward. But
Right.
if it's uncomfortable where you are, just take a soft, unfocused gaze on something else.
Closing my eyes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just start by taking a few deep breaths, hitting that sacred pause button, and just now offering yourself a moment of ease. Just checking in, noticing how scattered the mind might be, how busy it might be right in this moment. And you don't even have to do anything about that. Just notice that.
I noticed that I'm hosting a live broadcast interview with my eyes shut.
Yeah, you are one courageous woman, girlfriend. Now, switching gears and now just offering yourself ease. Just letting my words wash over you. May I be at ease. May I be centered and calm. May I offer myself just a moment of kindness. And I know now for time's sake, I would do this for a lot longer, but for our sake time here, just taking a moment to set an intention for yourself for today.
An intention.
And then whenever you're ready, just take a deep breath, release this very brief practice, and open your eyes and connect.
Thank you very, very much. I actually, what I tapped into initially was already being at ease and comfortable because of your graciousness and not just hearing your voice, but being a part of your friendliness again that actually I have missed for quite a while. So
I know I haven't seen
um,
you for so long.
I tapped into that very quickly. Before we wrap up, I want to say that everybody can get in touch with Lisa on her Facebook page, Fully Mindful. She is a professional mindfulness educator at eMindful. Is that correct?
I do work for emindful.com. It's a wonderful online company that we have many, many instructors. So if you tap in there, we do offer daily mindfuls there. And it's a way to support your practice. If you're feeling like you don't have time or I can't sit for 30 minutes by myself, you can tune in
Right.
there. And you can also connect with me at my website, fullymindful.com. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us at our live broadcast here with MyHealthStyle app. And please continue to ask questions, and we will be providing answers down below this live broadcast. And I'm going to see if I can find and edit that beautiful statement of Lisa's and share just that segment with everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Tracy says thank you. Wendy Hill says that was very centering, that brief little practice. Appreciate it, all of you, and have a wonderful and safe weekend.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much, Alex, and thanks to everybody joining us.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Well, how did you feel?